welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where I'm on my laptop again today and faced with an extraordinary looking puzzle called Zebediah Killgrave by starwarigami. I've done starwarigami puzzles on the channel before. They've always been magnificent, and this is just beautiful looking to me. It's full of zipper lines, but with a rinky-dink, in the sense that the zipper lines are working on cage totals rather than on digits. I'll explain what that means in a moment. Now, I will also confess that I had no idea who Zebediah Killgrave was. I looked it up, and apparently Zebediah Killgrave is a comic book character, also known as the Purple Man, and I think appeared in Daredevil comics or something back in 1964. I don't know if it's still a current character. Stan Lee was the creator, as with so many of the Marvel comic book heroes stroke villains. I'm not even sure if Zebediah Killgrave is a villain or a hero. I just realised I've got something, there's probably sand on my glasses. That's not a good thing. I won't be able to see properly. I've got my post-beach look today as well. I apologise for that. But I'm having to snatch moments in the middle of my holiday to try and make sure that we maintain our record of keeping 2 videos a day up on the channel, 2 new videos a day on the channel, which we've done since the first COVID lockdown. Anyway, sorry, I've cleaned my glasses. I will read the rules of this in a moment or two's time. Two other things to mention. Firstly, we are closing in on the 1st of August, and on the 1st of August we have a brand new Sudoku Hunt, courtesy of Skojo, Jobo and Jojo, clone based, let's just put it like that. Absolutely brilliant it is. So that's coming at 4 p.m. on the 1st, and I've also got birthdays to catch up on, so we're going to be catching up on birthdays over the coming editions. And apologies if I didn't read out your birthday when you hoped I would. Hopefully you were advised of that. But let's start with Marguerite, I hope I'm saying that correctly, who turned 24 on July the 16th. Apparently Marguerite's been watching for years, for which thank you, Marguerite, and I hope you had an absolutely brilliant birthday, with chocolate cake, of course. Next, Neve turned 23 back on July the 18th, and I know that because your brother Connor wrote to us, and I think Neve, I think you were at Bath Uni doing biochemistry. Oh yeah, that reminds me, a book I've been reading on the beach, Lessons in Chemistry. Wholeheartedly recommend it. Elizabeth Zott is, well, obviously a fictional lady, but a lady after my own heart, rather. Anyway, that's by the by, I'm getting distracted. Yeah, anyway, Neve, you were at Bath Uni and you got a first-class degree. Congratulations, and I think you were picking that up in the week of your birthday, so a week of celebration, and I hope you got chocolate cake as a reward. Next, Fee, from your husband Tom, over there in Michigan. It was your birthday on July the 20th, and you're, I think, just starting your 3rd year at law school, so good luck with that, Fee, and I hope you get chocolate cake. Now, somebody I don't think is having chocolate cake is Wade, over there in Missouri, who turned 38 earlier in the month and has been watching since pre-COVID but can't have chocolate cake. I think you diabetic, Wade. That's fair enough. It's a good excuse. But anyway, I hope your birthday was suitably splendid and you were able to have a treat and give yourself a treat in other ways. That's all the news. That's closing my puzzle book, which is where I'm recording all the birthday news. And I'm going to read you the rules of Zebediah Killgrave by starwarigami. They are as follows. It says normal killer Sudoku rules apply. Let's say normal Sudoku rules apply then. So we've got the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, in every column, and in every 3x3 box. Digits may not repeat in a cage. So that is normal killer Sudoku rules, except that none of these cages have totals. And then it says the totals of cages an equal distance from the central cage along a lavender line must sum to the total of the central cage. So it's sort of zippers, but applied to cages. So I'm trying to see where. Let's have a look at this line. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that line. Now, let's just think about what this means. So this line has got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's got 7 cages on it. So the middle cage will be the 4th cage, won't it? Which is this one. So let's give that a special colour. So we're going to sum these digits together, and we're going to get a number. And if I understand the rules correctly, we then say, okay, then these 2 squares would also sum to whatever the blue squares added up to. Then these squares, let's make those yellow, would also sum to that number. And then the green squares would also sum to that number. So it's sort of like zipper lines, but rather than applying to just the central digit and then digits the same distance from the central cell, here we find the central cage and we apply the rule to cages. So it's absolutely fascinating, this. It also says the digit in the cell marked with a square is even. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this digit is even. And that, I think, is all the rules. Doesn't look like there's any scrolling to do today. So do have a go at this one. I think it has 5 stars out of 5 for difficulty. So it might be quite hard, but the way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play. Let's get cracking. So where do we start here? I have not got a clue. Virtually the entire grid is covered in lines, with the exception of 3 cells, I think. I'm wondering if there's some sort of meta trick we need to do using the fact of sort of an extrapolation of the secret. The secret, something I share with only my very favourite people, being that a complete box of a Sudoku, because of the rules of Sudoku, must contain the digits 1 to 9 once each, and therefore must sum to 45. And that means that the whole of this Sudoku grid sums to 405, 9 lots of 45. No, that's probably going to be more relevant if the grid was covered in 1 line or less lines than this. There are a lot of lines, a lot of different lines. I'm wondering actually if it's this is where we start. Because, I mean, if we just isolate that rectangle, we can sort of use the secret on that, in the sense that the sum of those green digits must be even, mustn't it? Because this is the central cage along this zipper line. So what we know, the blue cage is the sum of the blue cage digits is equal to the sum of the green cage digits. In other words, if that sum was x, if blue sums to x, the sum of the line is 2x, which is even. Now that means, because 45, which is the sum of this whole box, is odd, these 3 digits sum to an odd number. Yeah, okay, that's not useful, is it? There's somebody outside. Okay, hang on, let me just delete that and think again. Oh, I see. So all this is like an arrow. All this is saying is that this digit is the sum of those 2 digits. There's a massive cage there is a massive cage in the bottom row. So maybe that's the cage I'm meant to look at. Let's highlight that one in green and the sides in blue this time, hoping for a change of fortune. So what do we know here? We know again the sum of blue plus green is even. We know that, alright, so we know the triangular number for 7. That is something we do know, and if you didn't know it, it's 28. In other words, what's the minimum sum of the green digits? Well, if we put the digits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 into green, that would be the least we could put into green. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 sum to 28. Now, that means that the blue digits here sum to at least 28. But I suppose they could be, no, you see, they could be massive, couldn't they? Because they could be 8, 9 pairs. I mean, I don't think they can be from a uniqueness perspective. I don't think we could have 8s and 9s into both of these dominoes, because you'd never be able to disambiguate the correct order. But But putting uniqueness to one side, actually the blue digits could sum to 34, which means green's... So, okay, so green's overall sum is between 28 and 34 and is therefore irrelevant. It's not easy even to start this, is it? Right, I've got a tiny deduction related to this line. Let me just highlight that line for a moment. Now, the middle cage along this line is this one. Let's make that yellow. Now, this is a 2-digit total, but these squares here, therefore, and let's make those purple, they are 5 different digits that must sum to the same as the yellow domino. Now, 5 different digits, a triangular number for 5 is 15, so these two squares are at least equal to 15, which means that we can't put a 5 in either of these cells, because the other digit would then have to be at least 10, and that's not a Sudoku digit. So these are hefty digits, but those are even again. So these aha, all right, well, I'm going to use that. Okay, using the thing about the next line, if we know that this is the middle of this massive long line, don't we? So we know these two squares add up to this total, which means that this can be expressed as 2x, which means orange must be odd to make row 7 add up to 45, which is an odd number. If these are even, these 6 cells in the middle, they sum overall to an even number, then orange sums up to an odd number. Now this, yellow, is that odd number. So that means, well, that's not even useful. Well, it's a bit useful. I can't do any eliminations. It means either the total for this is 15 or 17. So it's either 15. Oh, hang on, I didn't mean to do that. What I was going to do was that it's either 15 or 17. One of those is the total for this line here. Now, if it's 15, then these cells, yellow plus purple, would add up to 30, which means that these two squares would add up to 15 to make the overall row add up to 45. 15. But we don't know what green is, do we? Oh, I think I'm missing something there. That feels like I'm meant to be able to... Sorry, my brain is not telling me. I'm in holiday brain mode, and I feel the fact that if these add up to 15, I should know more about this total. That's just, I mean, it's nothing more than my brain telling me I should be able to do something with that. What about if this is 17? If this is 17... Oh, hang on. Either way round, I can get a limit on these squares. I should do that, shouldn't I? Let's do one thing at a time. If this is 17, then these add up to 34, which means these add up to 11 to make 45 for the row. And again, I don't think I know anything about the bottom row. I don't know how to do that. Okay, let's try instead. Okay, if this was 15, then orange is 15, which means that these 6 cells add up to 30, which means this 4-cell sequence must add up to half of 30, which is 15. These would add up to 15, so they would be at least 6, 7s, 8s and 9s again. And if this is 17, then orange is 17, which means these 6 cells add up to 28. Half of 28 is 14. So right, so these two digits either add up to 14 or 15. So that's annoying. So I can't even limit them as much as these two, because it's either I'm going to write 14 and 15 into these squares though, just to try and keep track of that. 14, 15, and is that the way round they go, or is it the other way round? If that's 15, this is 15. No, it's the other way round. Right, so if this is 15, this is 15. And if this is 17, this is 14. There's a little bit of baby noise in a different house. I can't do anything about that, I'm afraid. So we might have to forgive any noises off today. Right, so this is 15 or 14. This is a strange puzzle though, because even though you can limit stuff in the bottom of the grid, you can't actually conclude, or I don't think you can conclude anything certain. Is it something to do with... Yes, I know what it is. Okay, I've got another idea. Right. I can actually limit blue plus green, can't I? Because I could use the fact that actually I do know what the final 3 rows of the Sudoku sum to, because that's 3 lots of 45. So if that being the case, the 3 lots of 45 are 135. So if this is 15, we know this one's 15. So the sum total of all, we can work out the sum total of all of those digits, and it's going to be 30 plus 50, 45 in fact for this line. It's going to be 45 plus 30, which is 75, which means that, what are we going to get then? 60 is going to be the total for the bottom line, and if 60 is the total for the bottom line, then the total for the green line is half of 60, which is 30. So this would be 30. How do we show that? 3, 0, like that. And then if the bottom line is 30, the wings of the bottom row must add up to 15 to make the row add up to 45. Okay, well let's see if we have more joy the other way. If this is 17, then this line overall adds up to 3 lots of 17, which is 51. But this line adds up to 28. So that gives 79, doesn't it? Which means 56 is the total for blue plus green, which is 28. So this would be 28 in that instance. Let's go back, see if we can do that. So if that's 28, oh, that's the minimum. That's actually the minimum, because we worked out that the triangular number for this was 28, didn't we? If it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if this was 28, these would have to be an 8, 9 pair in the bottom row to make sure that the overall total for the bottom row is 45. So these would be an 8, 9 pair. And then these, which is 17, these would add up to 11. To get us up to 28 for these blue dominoes. Well, that's the problem with all of that, is it's incredibly plausible either way round. It's just very annoying. Okay, let's try something else. I could be looking in totally the wrong place here, couldn't I? That's probably worth at least a thought. Let me just... What about that? That is the middle of its line. Is that somehow constrained? Just going to look at this line for a moment. So this line has a central digit which is a single digit. What's the minimum for this? Yeah, okay, let's try and work out what the minimum is, because it's 10 there plus another 6 is 16, 17. But that's only 2 lots, that's it. Right. Okay. So this is the line that we could do things with immediately. And the reason is that this central digit here is the same as those 4 squares, and it's the same as these 4 squares. Now, if we treat, let's just delete that middle one. If we treat these as sort of, if we say, okay, well, what's the minimum we could put into those red cells? It would be 1, 2, 3, and 4, wouldn't it? The minimum we could put into these 3 squares would be 1, 2, and 3, and the minimum we could put here is 1. So that gives us a minimum total for red overall of 10 plus 6 plus 1 is 17. But 17 can't be the answer, because we know that when we divide the red cells by 2 in order to work out what this is, because this is basically, this line overall is 3 lots of this digit, isn't it? And these are 2 lots of this digit. So this is 1 lot of itself, if that makes any sense. So this we must get to an even total in the red cells in order to be able to divide that by 2 to find out the value of this square. So if we're looking for a number that is even, that's bigger than 17 therefore, well, it can only be 18 because this can't be bigger than 9. So that is 9, and there is 1 degree of freedom on this whole, in this whole caboodle, in the whole of the rednesses. So that can be a 2. There is definitely, that could be a 5 in these, but they must include 1, 2, and 3, and then a 4 or a 5 in order to make sure that they don't break the bank. This must include a 1 and a 2, but it could include a 1. It could be a 1, 2, 4 triple. But only one of these possible, only one of these collections, if you like. So that could be bigger by 1 than its minimum. This, I said in my example, could add up to 10. So it could add up to 11. This could add up to 6, or it could add up to 7. If I increase any one of these by 1, all the rest have to be minimumed. But this, okay, so that's not 9 anymore. But I don't know what the total is for this gauge anyway. So this is where I was meant to start, which is really, I just wasn't looking there. And these include 1, 2, and 3. And what else then? Oh, okay. Yes, all right. So what we could do, let's look, if we look at this, actually I'm going to use a different colour now. I'm running out of colours. I'll use lime green now. So we know that actually lime green sums to 9, don't we? Well, that's quite interesting, because the minimum sum of row 3's lime green would be a 1, 2, 3 triple, which is 6. So this can't be a 4. That has to be a 1, 2, or a 3, because otherwise this can't add up to 9. Yeah, no, it doesn't work. I was going to try it the other way around and say the maximum number of the 3 lime greens in row 3 is 8. That's true. But that doesn't actually put much pressure on this. Okay. Okay, here's another thought which might be relevant. Lime green must have a repeated digit in it, mustn't it? Because otherwise, if every lime green digit is different, their minimum sum would be 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is 10, which is bigger than 9. Knowledge bomb. So this digit can't repeat here, so this digit repeats in one of those 2 squares. But it's quite a small digit by the looks of things. These also have to add up to 9. So is there some way we can limit that? They don't see each other, those dominoes. That actually, red feels less restricted to me than lime green. So okay, oh dear. Sorry, I'm not sure. I have a feeling that there could be more we can do with sort of this 9 line. Not to do, no, because those don't add up to 9. I was wondering whether, because this line also adds up to an even number again, doesn't it? Because that must be the sum of these two. Sorry, it's those two. So this is even. So overall these are odd, but if I don't know what these add up to, I don't know what these add up to. And this line, how does this line work? So it's that one, and that one. Yeah, so in this line, you've got those 5 cells, you add them up, and you get those 5 cells. Okay, here's something different we could look at, though. The total for the big long line, we know, is either 15 or 14. Now just look at these squares then. Let's use, I'm running out of colours here, let's use grey. Now, I mean, obviously the grey squares have a minimum value of 10, don't they? Now, this is 15 or 14, so these two squares have a maximum value of 5. And that's useful because these two, but that's because, let's do this properly. These squares, you can see, they must sum to 15 or 14. That's how these lines work. So, if these add up to at least 10, and they do, because the minimum you could put into them is 1, 2, 3, and 4, these have a maximum value of 5, which means they can't individually be bigger than 4, and that means, look at this row, I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple. So these squares are whopping, or bigger at least. I'm going to actually just pencil mark it. Oh, that can't be a 9, because this is the sum of those two squares. So this digit can't be that big anymore. In fact, how big could it be? It can't be bigger than 4. If that digit is bigger than 4, this plus this will be bigger than 9. So that is 1, 2, 3, or 4, and that's a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple. So this is at least a 6. These squares are also high digits. This is a very interesting puzzle, actually. I have to say that. I don't feel I've got to grips with it at all, but I feel it's one of those puzzles that you enjoy solving because you keep finding out new little tidbits that you can make small advances from. How long have I had so far? Less than half an hour. How can that be? Time flies when you're having fun. So red. So the two reds add up to 9. But these two squares can't add up to more than 5. So if they added up to 5, these would add up to 5. If these add up to less than 5, these add up to more than 5, which means these... Right, this domino at the top, this is quite subtle, but this domino doesn't add up to more than 4, which is going to mean I can get rid of the 5s and the 4s in it. In fact, there's definitely a 1 in here. Right, yeah, let me just double check this. So what I'm saying is, because these two squares here, let me try and highlight them, those two squares, from the grey logic, and the fact that the greys can't add up to more than 15, these two squares can't add up to more than 5, because then the greys will add up to more than 15. So if greys maxed out at 5, the minimum value for this bottom red domino is 5, because we know overall these two squares plus the red domino add up to 10, because they are the digits 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if the minimum sum of this domino is 5, but overall red adds up to 9, then this can't add up to more than 4, and we can delete everything from it. It's made up of definitely a 1, and then the 1 is accompanying either a 2 or a 3 depending on what's in here. And that means these two squares are not 1s. So now, well, yeah, okay, so, this is huge. Right, this is another digit then. Because in this little triple, let's imagine there was no 1 at all in this triple. Well, then these would add up to at least, the minimum they could then be would be 2, 3, and 4, which add up to 9 before you add this digit in. So this should be more than 9. It should be whatever 9 plus whatever this digit is. So that can't be true. So there must be a 1 in this triple, which means this square is the only place 1 can go. So now, well, now this digit we know repeats in one of these two digits. Do we know it's a 1, or could it be that one? If it was not a 1, let's say it was a 2. Oh no, that's fine. That works actually quite nicely. Okay, let's try something different then. These two squares cannot be a 2-3 pair, because if they were a 2-3 pair, you couldn't fill this red domino. So actually the minimum sum of these two squares is a 2-4 pair, which means the minimum sum of these 3 squares together is 7, which means that can't be a 3. And that's about as useful as a chocolate teapot, I think. That's weird, isn't it? Wow, okay. So instead of that, let's think about if we extend these up here. That does not feel very well. 15, 25, 26, 27, 28. That is almost interesting. So what I'm thinking is, if I continue to extend things along this line, well, I might be wrong, but if we look at those 5 cells, which we know add up to, I'm just going to have to reuse colours here. I'm going to make these blue again. We know that blue on this line sums to 15 or 14. But on its own, I don't see how to use that. However, if we add blue to grey, I just make blue grey for a moment, then we do know that grey overall sums up to either 30 or 28, because it's 2 lots, isn't it? And that is a bit interesting if you look at this column, because this column, the minimum digits you could put in here would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's 15. This column, the minimum I could put in there would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's 10. So the minimum for this and this is now 25, plus these two squares, which would be at least a 1 and a 2. So they add up to 3 minimum. And that gives us 28, which is actually one of the totals that could arise. But these either add up to 28, which we now know would have to be a pure minimum, or they add up to 30, in which case there are 2 degrees of freedom or from that pure minimum number. And that must mean something. Let me just brood on that for a second. Does that mean? Yes, it does. Okay, so the only thing I'm seeing immediately there is that digit now is the same as that digit, I think. Because, let me go to, have I got my pen tool? My tool that allows me to do letters. I think those 2 digits are the same.
Now the reason I think that must be right is, let's imagine that this digit was not the same as this digit. Well then, if that's then it's impossible to repeat a digit within this 5-cell sequence, this sort of mirrored Italy. Or these two cages look like a mirrored version of Italy. Well, in that case, if these are 5 different digits, they would add up to at least 15. We know these add up to at least 15, so now I'm up to 30, and I haven't included this digit, so now I'm at least at 31, and that's an impossible total, because we know we're either heading for 30 or 28 in the grey cages overall. So we have to have a repeat digit within mirrored Italy, and the only place you can put a repeat digit is there. That must repeat, and it can't repeat in its own box. So these are the same. And they're probably both quite low. Well, that's interesting, actually. How low are they? Because they can't be 1. So if it was, say, a repeated 4, that feels like it might be starting to put 2. No, mirrored 4 would work, actually. Bobbins, that's so annoying. Because mirrored 4, if we accompany that with 1, 2, and 3, means the total for mirrored Italy would be 14, plus a minimum here of 15, plus a 1 here would get us to 30, and that's still possible. So you can mirror the 4. 5 might be a bridge too far. If you mirror the 5 and you put 1, 2, 3 with it, then you've got 10, 16. No, that's way too many. That seems to really break. So you can mirror 4, but mirrored 5 just really breaks. Let me just double check that. 10, 16. 16 and 50. Yeah, mirrored. Yeah, it does. It really breaks. Let me just check double. I'm just going to check mirrored 4 works again. Mirrored 4 with 1, 2, 3 is 14. Yeah, it does work. Okay. Alright, so this digit is either 2, 3, or 4 then, as the mirrored digit. Which is quite interesting. It's quite interesting in the context of these digits. Do we know? I know this includes a 1 and a 2 or a 3. But these had to be... So let's say this was a 1, 2 pair. Then this would be, the minimum this could be would be a 3, 4 pair. It would have to be a 3, 4 pair. Then this would have to be a 2. This would have to be a 2. This would have to be a 1. Bobbins. Or could we conclude? No, I'm not sure I can conclude that. Okay. Sorry, I'm struggling a bit now. What about... Still haven't got a clue what's going on at the bottom of the grid. The other worry with a puzzle like this is that if there is an easy... if there's an easy way to tell this is a... Let's say that's a 17 cage or something. Then I could be doing a lot of work here that's totally unnecessary. Oh dear. That's even. So that is 2, 4, 6, or 8. I bet it can't be 2. Do I know what the minimum of this is? Or sort of the I worked out this could be 1, 2, 3, 4 in my minimum calculation. So I could have digits as high as 6 in there. Because there were 2 degrees of freedom. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 6. Oh, bother. I don't know what to do, sorry. And what did I work out in row 6? These squares, they could be at least 1, 2, 3, 4, which means these are maxed out at 5. These are minned out at 5. And these have to be quite small. These add up to a maximum of 4. One of which is a 2 or a 3. So if there was no 2 or 3 in here, they would be too big. They would be 4 or 5. So the low digit that's not used here is used here. And then the 4 or the 5 is the accompanying digit. So there is a 4 or a 5 in one of these. But it could still be 4 and 2, couldn't it? If it was 4 and 2, then everything would work okay. Oh, I was trying to think about whether this could be a 2, wasn't I? Because if it's 2, it's knocking 2 out of all of those squares, and the minimum these would be 1, 3, 4, and 5. And then the minimum repeater would be a 3. 1, 3, 4, and 5 is 13, 16. But this side's too big because this is at least 15 on its own. Right, so that is either a 4, 6, or an 8. Which is maybe interesting. I don't know. This line is the sum of these digits. But I don't know what this digit is. So if this was not a 4, we'd have a lot of high digits in this row, wouldn't we? Okay. I wish I knew what that meant, but I don't think I do. This sort of U-bendy type thing has got 2 high digits there, but we don't know anything about these digits. Wow, what is going on? How on earth do you do this? It must be something. Do we know? Okay, let's go back to the middle box then. We know that there's a 1 and a 2 in this triple, because we know this as either adding up to 6 or 7. So in this domino, there is a 1 or a 2 for sure, because this one has to be a 1 or a 2. So the other of 1 or 2 is in here, and then a 3 or a 4. Okay. So this digit can't. Hang on. Here's a point I hadn't noticed. That digit can't be a 1 or a 2, because the 1 or the 2 is in that triple. So this is at least 3 or 4. So this can't be 8 anymore, or 7. It would be too big for this digit. And the minimum value of these squares is now 8. So now 7 in this box is definitely down here. That feels like it might matter. Maybe. How do we do this then? It could be some meta trick again involving, you know, the overall totals of boxes 4, 5, and 6 or something. So I know that. Okay, let's work out the possible values of. We know this is either 3 or 4. So this, because we're adding up to 9 in red, aren't we? So this domino, this is 3, this is 6. And these two squares add up to 4, so they'd be a 1, 3 pair. But if this is 5, then this is 5. So the sum total of this is 4 or 5. I'm not sure I trust that deduction, actually. Because the reason that's going to matter is it's going to put pressure on this row. So I'm going to check that deduction. Sorry, I'm not sure I believe it. If this is a 1-2 pair, these are 6, these are 4. If this is a 1-3 pair, it's 4, so this is 5, which means these add up to 5. Yeah, okay, so these two digits, let's just label them for a moment, the B digits, they add up to 4 or 5. But we know that overall, these cages here add up to either 15 or 14. So, what's the maximum value then of these digits? And I'm going to claim, well, it's not 12, is it? Because 12 plus 4 is 16, which is bigger than both options. So the maximum value of the grey digits in row 6 is 11, which means they're either a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple, or possibly they involve a 5. That's the only option, or they are the only options. So they must involve a 1, 2 and a 3. So this digit is at least a 4. So that's quite a big digit. I mean, that's such a desperate pencil mark, honestly. That's so desperately awful. Now, how does that help us, if at all? Presumably, these digits sum to something. But we don't know what that something is. It's the same as those digits. Again, this is one of those things where I'm looking at that and my brain is saying, well, that tells you something, Simon. It might do, but I don't know what it is. Is it telling me anything clever? I feel like I want to use this digit somehow, and the fact that that has to then... It can't repeat in its cage, can it? Is that somehow important? I wish I knew. If no, I don't know. I've not got anything there, I'm afraid. What about this thing? Is that telling me something? If it tells me something if that's a 9-6 pair. Because if that's a 9-6 pair, you'd have to... Then you could think about where 9 and 6 go in row 6. And where would you put the 9? It would have to be there. And where would you put the 6? It would have to be there. That would be a 9-6 pair. 9-6. This would be 5-7-8. So the total, if this was 9-6, the total of this would be 35. It wouldn't have a 4 in it. Oh, okay, so that would put this at 35 and make this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 as well. And that digit would have to appear in this cage. That's odd. That's really weird. Does that only apply if this is 9 and 6? What about if this is 9 and 5 and this is 4? Then the problem with that is the 5 in the row could go into these wing positions, I think. If this was... Presumably one of these has to be a 1, doesn't it? if there was no 1 in here, then the minimum sum of these would be 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 14, plus 2 here is 16, and we know the minimum sum of that is 15. So again, we get to 31 without even counting this digit, which breaks this total. So we can't do that. That won't work. So there is a 1 in one of these. It's probably not a surprise, but it is true. But again, there's going to have to be, well, there's a 1, 2, and a 3 in these squares, and then either a 4 or a 5, depending. Oh, okay, so the total of this is massive. Oh, so is that the point? Ah, yeah, okay, sorry, here's the corollary of something we worked out earlier. In row 6, we worked out those 4 squares I've highlighted are either a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple or a 1, 2, 3, 5 quadruple. So they either add up to 10 or 11. Now, the corollary that I didn't think about was therefore that means that these 5 squares are either summing to 35 or 34. And that is interesting because these 5 squares are therefore summing to 35 or 34, and there are 5 of them. And 35 and 34 have individual totals. There's only one way you can use different Sudoku numbers to get to 35, and that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 34, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So these digits are from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And, well, does that help me? That's not 9. So one of these is a 9. So if, this is another way of showing what we were looking at earlier, which is that if this is 9, the 9 in row 6 has to go there. So if that's a 9, there's a 9 in there, and that's a 9. But the thing I was wondering is that does this tell me, does this digit have to appear in here? Because that certainly was the case where we made that 9, 6. But if this is a 4, because, yeah. Yes, it does. Here it's weird, but those 2 digits are the same. Hang on, this is right. This is very, very interesting, because this is something that feels deliberate all of a sudden to me. Do you remember right at the start we said that was even, so this is odd? Well, hang on a moment. If I can prove this digit is even, which I might now be able to do, then this digit is, it's even. I thought for a moment it's going to be even, which doesn't limit it as much as I was hoping. But it's still interesting. So let me just think about this. What I'm saying is that these digits, if they're 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, these digits are 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if that's a 4, there is a 4 in here, which would have to be there. Now, either way, there's definitely a 6 or an 8 in here. Yeah, so whatever this is, it appears in this cage. The only room for doubt there, because we know this cage sums to either 34 or 35, was in the, which definitely, so 34 or 35 definitely have 6 and 8 in them. It's whether they have 4 or 5. So the only interesting point there was, if this is 4, is there a 4 in here? But there is, because if this is a 4, we know these sum to 34, don't we? Because we know these were summing to 11 in that instance. They don't have 4 in anymore. So if this is a 4, this is summing to 34, which means it contains 4, and that 4 will be here. So it is true to say that these are the same digit. Let's give those the award of a thingy thing. But what that means is we can go back to the very first deduction we thought about. The fact that this sums to 2x is even. That's even, so we're still on an even total. We know overall the box sums to an odd number. Once we add the 1 in, we're on an odd number, so this has to be even to preserve the parity, and that digit is therefore not a 3. So this is even, and it's the same as that. So this is even. And this is 2 or 4, so this is not now a 2-3 or a 2-4 pair, because if this was a 2-4 pair, it breaks this digit. So this is, what's that saying? Is that saying there needs to be a 5 in there or not? Hang on. So if this can't be 2-3 or 2-4, so its minimum value is 2-5. Yeah, its minimum value is 2-5. Because it can't be 2-3, it will break that domino. It can't be 2-4, it'll break that cell. So its minimum value is 2-5. Or we can make it 3-4, but 2-5 and 3-4 both add up to 7. So the minimum sum of those 3 digits in row 3 in lime green is 8, which means that is a 1 to create overall a lime green total that equals 9. And now there's no 1 in here. So now there is a 2, which means these squares don't include 2. This is no longer a 1, so there is a 1 down here. That was something we were thinking about before. These had a minimum value of, these had a maximum value of 5, so these have a minimum value of 5, and that's working now. So that's actually, that's not, there's a 1 down here, but I don't want to disturb all my sort of aid memoirs until we need to. How long have I had? No, I haven't had an hour yet. That's fine. That's fine. It's 5-star puzzle, so we shouldn't be too embarrassed yet. Okay. So, what does that allow us to conclude? If anything at all. So if this was a 2, this would have to be a 3-4 pair. This would be a 1-2 pair. This would be a 2-4 pair. This would be a 1-3 pair. But if this is a 4, then it's knocking 4 out of here. This is a 4. I think this would make this a 2-5 pair. This a 1-3 pair. Sorry, there's an elf fly buzzing around. Go away, fly. That's very distracting. It's a very, very distracted Cornish fly. Naughty fly. Ah, back again. Fly. Oh, this is going to be impossible. If this fly keeps doing that, doesn't the fly realise that this is a cracking the crypt? So go away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't concentrate at all if that fly keeps doing that. Okay, let's focus. What do we now know about the world? Have we learned anything extra? So do we now know what this is doing? Or has our knowledge of that world not really improved? So this is the difference between these two digits. So if that's a 4, that has to be 9, 5. And that would put a 9 here. No. What about if that's a 4? Then this, if that's a 4, that's a 2. So, that doesn't work. That's really interesting. Okay, this can't be 4 anymore. Because it sort of because if this is 4, this is 2. And now these have to be a 3-5 pair. That's fairly straightforward, actually. So these are a 6-8. Well, they're not a 6-8 pair. They are both 6 or both 8. So the C digit is in one of those squares. And it's a high digit. So the only way that this adds up to 34 now is if this is a 4. And whatever this digit is appears in this little... That's interesting. That digit, in terms of where it goes from a Sudoku perspective, in box 5, it's in one of these two squares, isn't it? So is that telling me something useful? No, that's fine. I thought I'd spotted something I haven't. If we... Well, no, it is difficult. Yeah, because... Yeah, this... Yeah. Yeah, if this was a 9-5 pair, there would be nowhere for this digit to appear in this box, would there? If this is 9 and this is 5, which happens only when this is 4, because 8 can't be far enough away from this digit. Yeah, if this is 4 and this is a 9-5 pair, this digit, 6 or 8, can't appear in this box. So this is a 3. Which means this is it now. So now this is a 2-4 pair, which means this is a 1-2 pair. That's actually not what I was expecting, because that's pushing 2 out of these squares, which means they must be a 3-4 pair, otherwise they're going to get too big. So this is a 3-4 pair. This is A is a 2, which means this is a 2. More digits are getting entered. Now, let's just make sure we don't miss anything here. But this is 2-4, so this is not 4. This is a 1-3 pair. So now, I want to say the total's going to be 14, isn't it? But is that wrong? Because no, it's wrong. Because it's true to say that these wing digits in row 5 do add up to 4, but there's nothing that says, I don't think anyway, that these digits can't add up to 11, and that would get us back to a 15 total. But all of these, 9 has got to be in those squares. Sorry, what am I talking about? That's absolute nonsense. For some reason in my brain the 9 had gone here, and I was saying 9 had to be therefore over here in box 2. Thankfully I've noticed that's not true, but these are massive, because this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple, plus a 9. So these are 5, 6, 7 and 8. Whatever... Oh, it still doesn't matter. So this is either 8, 5 or 9, 6. Now, if it's 9, 6, that's 9, that's 6. These are 5, 7, 8. But if it's 8, 5, either of these could be 8, and the 5 could go in the wings. That's really, really weird the way this works. So if I actually learned anything, I know these don't include 2s. I'm so sorry, I can't see what that means actually. So perhaps we've got to... Am I being a bit slow here? That is very possible. I know that these digits as a collective here, those digits add up to either 14 or 15, so they don't have to all be different, couldn't they? They could be 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with 1, 3, 4, 5 left to make an appearance. Although, 3, 4, no, that doesn't work over there, because these can't be from 1, 3, 4 and 5, because that would mean all of these digits had too few options. They'd all 5 of those digits would be selected from 1, 3, 4 and 5. So I think it might be true to say there has to be a new digit over here that's not one of 1, 3, 4 and 5. But okay, but that could just be a 2. mean, that digit must repeat up here, mustn't it? Because otherwise, again, if we've got 6 different digits on the right, in the one that looks a bit like Italy, we've got 6 different digits there. That's 21. Yeah, plus 10 here, plus 2. It's massively more than 30, which is our absolute maximum. So this digit does repeat up there, and probably can't be a 5. Let's just think about that. So 15, 25, 27. So this can't even be a 4, actually. This is a 1. So that's a 1-3 pair. I'm just going to double check that. If that's 4, 15, 19, 29, 31, it's too big. Right, so this is a 1-3 pair. This square is 4 or 5. Bobbins. Is this somehow resolved now? I mean, if that's 4 or 5. I'm wondering if we can push up the total of this to be too big if that's a 4 or a 5. Because that would give us a 4-5 pair here, which is 9. Plus 2 is 11. Plus a 1-3 pair is 15. And then plus that digit is breaking the bank, isn't it? I think this square can't be a 4 or a 5. Might be wrong about this. But I think if this is 4 or 5, we get too big. We get a 4-5 pair, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, it's too big. So this square is a 1-3, which means this is a 1-3 pair, which means, oh, I don't believe it. It's still 14 or 15, because I've now got 6 here, definitely, plus another 4 in the 1-3 pairs, 10, plus 4 or 5. So 14 or 15 is still possible. This is ridiculous. It just doesn't give me any. So what's this digit then? That's got to be that can't be that big. It can't be that big, because now I've got. Well, what have I got? This digit is being repeated up there. Let's just give that a digit. Let's make that D. D is up there somewhere. Yeah, that's interesting. D, which is a 1 or a 3, can't go there, can it? Because look, we've got 1, 2. In fact, that digit's quite big. I hadn't noticed this. But that's a minimum of 5. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. I'm sure it can't be most of those, because this will get too big. But that is true. So this digit is a 1 or a 3. Because D must repeat. That must mean, yeah, what's this digit? That digit, I mean, obviously could be 4. Let's go with 4, 5, 6. If it's 6, how big does this get? We then get 12, 14. I think it's fine. Because, it's only just fine. But if that's 6, you get 12, 14. Now, can that be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? It looks like it. If that can be a 2, it can be. Maybe that has to be a 2. Because this is quite big. So that would be a 4 here and a 5 here. If that's a 2. But if this is not a 2, what's the sum of these digits? Let's just forget about that for the moment. In fact, I'm going to undo that digit because I'm not sure about it. But let's come back here. Can we prove this is a 2? If it wasn't a 2, it's at least a 4. And then the minimum value of these 3 digits is 4, 5, 6, which is 15 plus 1 plus 3. So it's 19 here, plus 1 is 20. Well, these are at least 10, and that's at least 2. That's way over our 30 maximum, so this is a 2. That's going to do nothing, isn't it? Okay, but now the minimum value. If that's a 3, does this just break then? Maybe that's the point. If that's 3, even if we make this a 4, 5 pair, then we'd have 15, 18, No, it works. I don't believe it. It just works, I think. 18 here, minimum, plus make this a 4, and we'd have 28 plus 2 is 30. So we can make this a 3. Bobbins. This is really confusing. It's really confusing me. What about... How do we do this? It's got to be a 4 or a 5 in there. Ah! Is that true? You can't have both of them in there, because this adds up to 34 or 35. Right, that digit is 4 or 5, isn't it? Because this p pentomino here adds up. It's either 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So only one of 4 and 5 is there, so the other one is there. Which makes... It's not very surprising, actually. If it's 4, then that has to be a 4. Ooh. Is that true? No, that's not true. In fact, the opposite of that is true. Ah, sorry. I was thinking that I had to... No, the yellow digits... If that's 4, this then doesn't have 4 in it, so it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is 35. So this is also that. So that digit and that digit, are they the same digit or not? If this is 5, then there's a 4 in here, so there's a 4 in here and no 5. Yeah, so so those digits are the same, which must be... So if they were 5, that would be a 5, and that would be an 8. 5, 5, 5, 8. And these, well, that would then be at least a 6. 5. Oh, the maths of this is getting quite involved now. So then you'd be up to 15. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. No, you just wouldn't. That's absolute nonsense. You'd be up to 13 on that side. 13 on that side. Plus... No, that's too big. Right, okay. So I'm now going to claim that these are both 4s. Because I think they are the same. I think they're the same. Let me just label them with E to reconfirm that. I'm just going to go through that once more. If this is 4, because you can't put 4 in there now, this contains 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s and 9s, so which means this total is 35, which means this total is 35, so there's no 4 in it. So that would mean this was the 4 in row 6. So this would be a 4 and this would be a 4. And if this is a 5, there's no 5 in here, but there is a 4 now, which means this sums to 34, which means this sums to 34, so there's no 5 in it. So the 5 in the row goes here. So these are the same. And if they're both 5, I think overall grey, Italy and mirrored Italy, gets to at least 31, but I might be wrong. So let's just think about this. If this is double 5, you can see this side is definitely 13. This is at least a 6 now. Let's keep it to its minimum. So this would be a 5 and a 6, which is 11, plus a 1, 2, 3 triple, which is 17. So I'm at 30 before I take that digit into account. It's too big. So these are both 4. And that is going to do nothing. Oh, come on. Come on, that must do something. Well, okay, no, it does one thing, and that thing is not to be sniffed at. Because now I actually do know. Yes, no, I know what it does. We looked at this before, because this digit was the determinator of whether this was the sort of bottom, these triominoes sum to 14 or 15. They now sum to 14. We've finally worked it out. This has probably been available in many ways in a very much easier way, but I now do know But this sums to 14, which feels like an enormous breakthrough. So we're in 14 land. We're in 17 land for this one. So this is an 8-9 pair, and I can do that. So that's 9, that's 8. And therefore we're in 28 land for the bottom, which is big, because if we're in 28 land for the bottom, these two have to be an 8-9 pair to add up to 45 in the bottom row. And then if we're in, okay, so if we're in 17 land here, we're in 34 land for yellow plus purple, which means we're in 11 land for the wings of row 8, but without using 8s or 9s. So we're either using 5s and 6s or 4s and 7s, and that's not a 4. Oh, we can't have 4 on either side because of the funny thing we've just been looking at. So this is not 4-7. This is a 5-6 pair, and probably if we knew that was 5, well, oh no, we don't, do we? Because we are looking at the top stuff we've got going on. We've got 8 definitely, and we need 14. Yeah, this is good, isn't it? I'll just double check this. These 5 squares add up to 14. And I've got 8 in them because I've got 4 and double 2. So these must add up to 6. And the only way I can see that working is if this is 1 and this is 5. And therefore this is 6 and this is 5. And now this is 3 and this is 1. And this is 1 and this is 3. And there's no 4 in here, look. So this is, so that's not 4. This is all massive digits. Now, how do we do this then? So these squares are from 6, 7 and 8 in row 3. There's a Maverick. Maybe Maverick has made his way all the way here. I can hear a Maverick in the distance. We've got 7s, 8s and 9s, look, to complete row 9. We've got 6, 7s, 8s and 9s to complete column 1. Sorry, did I say row 9? I meant column 9. It is Maverick. I don't believe it. Okay, so right. Here's a question. Where's 7 in column 9? It is not only a Maverick, it's a loud Maverick. I'm so sorry, but loud Maverick. Okay, where's 7 in column 9? Because there is a 7 in this domino. Because the 7 in this 6, 7, 8 triple is on the right hand side, and that means that's not 7, which means the only place for 7 in column 9. I think I keep saying row 9 because of Maverick. Now that allows us to get rid of 7s in all of those squares. What do those add up to? Oh, they add up to 14, which means I could have got rid of 7 from them instantly if I'd thought about it. Okay, that's not 6, so this isn't 8. And that's a 7. Okay, if that's a 7, orange adds up to 17, so this adds up to 10. So this can't be an 8, because if it was an 8, this would be a 2, and there's a 2 there. So this is 1 or 4, which is jolly interesting, but unfortunately not persuasive enough to help us. Okay. So, we will use this fact to explain the following. Looks like I've got a lot of high digits. I've got a 1 here. That means I've got a 1 here, look. And I get a 2 in one of these squares, which apparently isn't resolved. And these digits, oh, I see. Okay, so these digits have to appear, look. They're both quite big digits. They've got to make an appearance in row 6, don't they? And these are either an 8-5 pair, so that would be the 8, this would be a 5. Or 4, there are 9 6 pair, and that would be the 6, and this would be a 9. So this is a 5 or a 9 in all situations, and this is a 6 or an 8, which we already knew. But that's a 5 or a 9. So these squares definitely include 6, 7s, and 8. So if that's an 8, there's an 8 here, there's an 8 here, there's an 8 here. Oh, do we know? We know C is one of them. Oh, no, there's two. Both options are available. Sorry, that's not a sensible thought, is it? This can't be a 5 by our fair-weathered friend Sudoku. Right, I've got a 6-9 pair now in box. Oh, that's useful. I've got a 6-9 pair in box 7. So that square in the corner is an 8, which means this square is a 9. Now let's just double check. Blue is now summing to 28, which is correct, so that works. That's not a 9 by Sudoku. This is a 6-9 pair. So what do we want these two to add up to? 14. Yeah, so it's either 9 5 or 8 6, but we don't know the order somehow. That's very infuriating. Okay, these don't include 8 anymore. Maybe I've got to get rid of my aid memoirs and start to pencil mark a bit more diligently. There is definitely a 9 in one of those two. I don't think I know which way round that goes. I've got to put a no, that's a silly thought. I was going to say I have to put a 7 into row 8. It's true, but I don't. I was hoping I could pencil mark it in one box, and I can't. 8 is in one of those two squares. That's a 9, so there's an 8 up here which I hadn't noticed. That's doing some things, because that's getting this down to being a 6-7 pair, which means this. Aha! That is an 8, which means this is an 8 from my earlier deductions. Now, that surely is going to help, because if that's an 8, I don't think this can be 9 6 anymore, because then I couldn't put 9 and 6 in this row. So this is 8 5. So this is 8, this is 5. These are not 5s. So I'm using my tiny keyboard now. So these don't have 5 in. So I've got a 6-7 pair, which makes that a 9. This is now a 5, which makes sense with this being 8 5, because I have to put those digits in the row, or this row. These are not 5 anymore. These must include 8 because of Sudoku. These squares are from 6, 7, 8, and 9, but these don't include 8. Let me think. Let's. Oh, come on, Simon. Oh, right, that's not an 8. So these are from 5, 6, and 7. There's a 5, 6, 7 triple in column 5. And the digits I've not put in column 5 are 1, 2, and 4. So these digits are from 1, 2, and 4, which might be useful. 8, no. Hang on. We're doing better than we were. This is a long video. My poor old laptop. I hope it's not going to give up the ghost. 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's got to be the 8. In box 2, let's double click 8s. I feel like I've done a lot of 8. I have done a lot, and I've just got this sort of X-wing of 8s left. I've got 2 lines left that I haven't used up. I've got this one, which I know has a 2 on it, but I don't know whether the 2 is in the middle box or in the winged box. And I've got the U-bend, which is full of high digits in its middle. Oh, sorry, there's now a funny noise coming from outside. Okay, so whatever you put in the middle, you get to know the winged digit, if you see what I mean. Because whatever you put there, that becomes the other digit. So this probably has to be a very large digit, doesn't it? Because these have to be so big. If these are minimum, they are 21. that would be a 9. That would be a max of 7, so that's 16. So this is at least a 5, and it's not 5, 6, 7, or 8, so it is 9, whatever happens. And that's not 9 anymore. These aren't 9 anymore. Let me think about this again. I think I better think it out again. I'm really the situation. If you is that really a 6-7 pair? Because that would make that an 8. Why? Well, that's a 6-7 pair. That's true. Why is that a 6 or a 7? Because it can't be 8 or 9. Okay, that's right. So that is an 8. Apparently, this is no longer able to be 8. So, this is 20. Oh, this is now getting quite big then. So if this is double 9 and... yeah, if that's 9, surely the world breaks. Because double 9 plus 6 at least is 24. I can't make those add up to 24 because they won't have a 9 available. So that is not 9. So this is a 6-7 pair. That is 9. These either add up to 23 or 24 now. How do we do that then? You could probably colour this, couldn't you? Whatever this is, these two are the opposite. So they're definitely adding up to an even number. Plus an odd number is an odd number. So this has to add up to an odd number. So I think that has to be a 6. Let's see if that works. 23 makes this a 7, makes this a 7. And those do add up to the right total. Now let's just prove that doesn't work the other way around, because that I will be pleased that my parity argument worked. Oh, it definitely doesn't. It doesn't get anywhere near, does it? So that's very good. So this is 23. This is now a 6. This is now 5. And didn't we know these two had to add up to 14? So that's a 9. There is no 9 now in these squares or this square. This is now 5. This is a 9. I think we're getting somewhere. This is a 6, which we had to go with a something, didn't it? Weren't we making that add up to 10? I think we were. So this is a 7. That's a 9 in the corner. Should get a song. I mean, frankly, it should. Okay. So now we've only got one line left to think about. In fact, we know what's on that line up there. And that's 2, 3, and 4 from this box, adding up to 9. Plus 8 is 17. So, again, it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? We've got to make sure overall this line adds up to an even number, because that's its nature. It's those two, or those 3 digits, add up to these 3 digits. So overall it's even, but it's odd by the point it gets through to there. So this adds up to an odd number, which means it's not a 5-7 pair. So it does involve 6, which means this, okay, that's good, look, because if there's a 6 up here, that's a 6, therefore that's a 7. Now I actually know what this adds up to. That's now a 7. Okay, that still hasn't... Oh, goodness. So what does this add up to? 9, 17 plus 11 is 28 again. So 14 is the total for this. And we've got an 8. So these add up to 6 and don't involve a 3, which puts 3 in this corner. That's 3 in that corner. That's 3 in the spotlight losing its religion. So this is a 3. Okay, so the maths of this ought to work now. They do add up to 14. Okay, so what do we need? We've got a 2-4 pair at the bottom of the grid, which means these squares... Oh, it looks like I might be able to place an 8, which I hadn't done, but this is a 1-3 pair. These squares, that's not a 4 anymore. And these squares are a 1, 2, 3 triple, apparently, in row 7. So this is a 3. Sorry if that's been shouting at me for a long time. So that's a 3, that's a 4. The bottom of this row needs 6 and 7, which is placeable. Now that was the 7, so I'm glad I didn't go down that route before. Bobbins, how do we do this top part then? Oh, you know what we could do? We could do maths on this box. Because I must be able to work out what the middle bit of this adds up to. So the secret tells us the overall box is 45. 1, 2 and 8 add up to 11. So this little sextuplet adds up to 34, which means the middle bit of it adds up to 17, which means as that's a 7, this adds up to 10, and it's not 1, 9 or 2, 8 or 3, 7, so it's 4, 6, and I don't believe it, I don't know the order, apparently. But that means these squares are 3 and 5. Okay, I do know the order of the 3 and the 5. So that's 3, that's 5, that's 5, that's 6. That does unwind the other side of this, so that is useful. That's now 6, that's 7. This is a 2, 3 pair, I think. So this should be a 1 and 7, we can do that. That's a bigger fly that's returning. So that's a 2, that's a 3. This is, by the way, Star Origami, this is a puzzle of such incredible brilliance. This is a 4, and that should be a 5, and that's a 4, and that's a 2. And I might have solved it. That is absolutely brilliant. The logic, I mean, I'm a bit worried I've missed something in there, because I think to actually even work out how the bottom numbers divided up took me about an hour, at least an hour. But it was absolutely fascinating. Is it right? Yes. Yes, it is right. That is absolutely brilliant. I am delighted. I'm absolutely delighted. Zebediah Killgrave, that was fabulous. Star Origami, take a bow. Let me know in the comments how you got on. Thank you for watching, if you're still watching now, and bearing with my laptop. Yeah, drop a comment. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.